Hi everyone. First of all, I hope that everyone enjoyed watching Wall-E this week. This movie is going to be our representative of Pixar films. I actually went back and forth about which Pixar film to choose, and hopefully why I landed on this particular one will become a little bit clearer as we go along. Alright, so I actually just want to talk about two main things in terms of Wall-E. Now, in many ways, these will actually set the stage for many of the other films we'll be talking about throughout the course. The first thing I want to talk about is something that Andrew Stanton actually brought up in his TED Talk that I gave you for this week. Andrew Stanton, who wrote Disney films such as Toy Story, Bug's Life, and Wall-E, points out that one of the things he learned from working on so many different films was that viewers actually want to, quote, work for their meal. Now, I want you to pause over that because this is actually a really interesting narrative theory that Stanton uses for many of his Pixar films and that we can actually use for understanding many of the movies that we will be watching and analyzing as we move forward. So in the discussion boards this week, and you should have seen this already, I'll ask everyone to think a little bit more about what Stanton means by having viewers work for their meal. But here, I just want to talk about the basics. The essential idea here is that one of the best things you can do as you are creating a movie or any story is to put your viewers in a position where they have to guess, where they have to, in other words, put information together so that they can figure out what is happening and what is occurring with particular individuals and what's going to happen next. Viewers don't like to be spoon-fed and they don't want to know everything all at once. This is how suspense or anything that has us trying to anticipate what is going to happen next functions. Now, in Wall-E, we have many different examples of how this idea works. We have all of these interactions between Wall-E and Eve early on in the movie that are based on very little information. It's not like this movie opens up by letting us know exactly what is going on. We have to try to figure it out using clues, and often these clues are visual. One of the reasons why the movie works this way is that there is very little speaking for the first half of the movie. The two main characters are Eve, who talks just a tiny bit, and Wall-E, who talks even less. For a good portion of the film, there is virtually no conversation. Now, this is a very specific literary technique. By leaving speech out of almost the entirety of the film, Stanton encourages us to insert our own information and to guess what is going on based off of what we have seen. The second topic I want to discuss in Wall-E is the switch. Partway through the movie, the first part of the movie focuses on portraying Wall-E and Eve and their relationship to each other. Then, partway through the film, the narrative switches from the robot-centered narrative about machines that don't really talk to humans, and then it shifts from there to a representation of human beings. And these humans, as you probably noticed, are not the most flattering representation of the human race. Humans are moving around in chairs to the extent that they may be losing their ability to walk at all. I want everyone to really think about the possibility that Wall-E is actually a social critique. That at the center of it is this really satirical, really biting representation of humanity. The movie gives us a lovable robot, but it also it has something very serious to say about what we are doing with our cell phones and with other forms of virtual communication. The movie is essentially 90% about robots and 10% about humans. Now, there are a lot of different possibilities why this might be the case. The first is that it is absolutely possible that this movie is showing how humans are becoming machines. In other words, that as we move forward, the boundary between humans and robots is becoming incredibly blurred. We are at a point right now when customer service representatives are being replaced by robots. You can click on a customer service chat on a particular website, and you might not be able to tell for a little bit if you are talking to a human being or to a robot. All right, and that's an incredibly important advance or change in our identities and in our lives. And in many ways, it is possible that WALL-E is thinking about this. Another possibility for why the movie is structured this way is that it wants to say that humans are getting to the point where they no longer interact with each other, at least not directly. Now, the movie WALL-E is thinking about whether we are getting to the point where our bodies don't really count, right? We feel very curiously disembodied, right? So that we feel like we're not a part of the physical world, but that we are mostly a part of the virtual world. And this is done through our cell phones, through our computers. This is an online course after all, and many other forms of communication. All right, so those are some possibilities for how we can understand the movie, and I'm really interested to see what you guys thought in the discussion boards and in the quizzes.